Dear boomers, what is the one thing in your life that changed your life forever? As I mentioned in a recent video, I had been a river guiding person on the Klamath River in California. And I have described that. At the end of it all, the crew went up in an airplane. They wanted me to come with them, and I declined. I had a very strong feeling that I should not go, and the children who were told they needed to go with their parents did not want to go. And they went, the whole plane crashed into the canyon that probably because of the downwinds were holding the plane from going up into to get beyond these canyons, and it crashed and everybody died. Near-death experiences, though, that was not exactly a near-death experience, although it was a near-death escape, which is what I renamed that video to be, a near-death escape. So I didn't immediately decide what it would be to get me to a path of destiny. It took me a series of life experiences to figure out that I was going to go to nursing school. And that wasn't necessarily the easiest thing I ever did in my life, but I did it. I wasn't really a student. I was a high school dropout. I did get a GED, which anyone here is a high school dropout, these GEDs can get you anything you want in terms of education. However, eventually I did marry a person I considered to be my soulmate, and he and I had a lot in common. We had to work through our issues in life together. And he had his first heart attack in the beginning of the 1990s. And we got him to the hospital in time, and they figured out that he had what is called a hyperhomocysteemia problem in his bloodstream, and all he really needed to do was take B vitamins, which he did do. Maybe not as religiously as I would have liked him to do, but he did. He did it. I can't change anybody. I can only give them direction. And at that time, I was gainfully employed as a nurse. That was his first heart attack. The second and third heart attack happened on my birthday, or just a day or two before my birthday in 2017. That was, he knew he was going to have a heart attack, or he felt like he was having a heart attack. So he went to a restaurant that we had frequented quite a lot, and he thought, well, before I drive to the hospital to get help, I will drink a few tequilas. And he did that, fell off the bar stool. They called our son, and unfortunately did not take him to the hospital. They took him home and called me at work. Thankfully, my patient load had diminished at that moment. My patients had gone home, and so I rushed home and got him comfortable. He had fallen, and he had blood dripping down his face, etc., etc. So I spent a day with him, and it was very interesting because he was in a different realm of consciousness. I think he was about to go, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. And I would say, do you want to go to the hospital now? And he said, not yet, not yet. Well, he was on his way to the hospital before. I don't know why it was so difficult to make that decision to go, but you don't know. He finally said, well, I'm ready now. And that was exciting. I took him to the hospital, and they immediately admitted him to do a heart cath the next morning. So I thought it would be best for him to rest. And I came back to the house and got everything ready for when he was going to come home. And because there was a bit of some things that needed to be straightened out. So the next morning, he was attached to the heart monitors and so forth. He gets up to brush his teeth, and suddenly he had a major heart attack. It was on the monitors. They nurses rushed in. They called the cardiac catheter team people to come immediately, but what they really did, what these nurses did, was they kept him alive with the various medicines that they use to keep people from having a major heart attack. So they were working on him. I don't know if they did I don't know if his heart had gone into a pattern which required a shock, but at the same time, he managed to decide to leave. So you have to understand that even if you're in the hands of the caring people at the hospital who are trying to save your life, that doesn't really necessarily mean that they will succeed. And as he was leaving his body and he was going off into the realms that are unknown, he looked back and he saw the nurses working on him, diligently working on him. And he thought, oh my goodness, I don't want to disappoint them. I know they're helping, trying to help me. I don't want to disappoint them. So he went back into his body, and they were able to put some stents into his heart to save his life until he eventually died of the fourth heart attack. Now, the third heart attack had happened on the bar stool. The third one happened in the hospital. And he came back, and he was in this wonderful mood of exhilaration for having survived such a difficult situation. Although at the same time, it wasn't as when he left the body, it wasn't as difficult as it was when he goes back into the body, because he had to accept his life and maybe move forward. And he did, but he was not the healthiest person alive, and we all knew the fourth heart attack would be the one that would take him into the next realm, where he wasn't afraid to go. He was not afraid to go. And near-death experiences are in the literature quite a bit. I like Anita Morjoli's near-death experience, where she actually had been riddled with cancer. And when she died, she went into parts unknown to her, where everything was love, love, love. Everything was love. Everybody says the same thing about when you do die. It's all about love and forgiveness, the amazing vibrational field of love and forgiveness is a common thread in all of these stories. But in this example, Anita Morjoli was, when she came back from her near-death experience, she had something to teach the world, and that's what she did. She teaches the world that all there is love and all there is forgiveness. Wayne Dyer was the one who helped her get onto the world stage with these messages, which I think is so precious. I love Wayne Dyer. And the fact that he was able to just die like that was very, very cool, because he didn't have to suffer or have pain, apparently. I had his daughter Sabrina on a radio show that I was doing back at the time of Wayne Dyer's death, and she came on to that radio show and talked about ways that she felt like her father was communicating with not only herself but her siblings. And so that's the thing about when people die. You can communicate with them if you believe it. A lot of times they are communicating with you, and my husband does communicate with me. And if you think that it's impossible and it will never happen, you block it out, you deny it. So that is the truth about these near-death experiences. They happen to a lot of people. And my near-death escape was one thing, and I'm trying to think what Tom did, my husband Tommaso, what he did from the time of his near-death experience to the time, well, actually, it was a COVID thing that happened to him. He had 5 days of high fevers, and he then had then he died, basically, and he died, and I was able to resuscitate him, as I have learned to do as a nurse. And he went to the hospital, where he died the next day. They had to take him off life support, but in that interim, his body was flying around. He went to visit his grandson, who was very agitated the whole evening of his death. And he wasn't told, the child was not told, that his grandfather had died. But Tom was visiting the various people that he loved, and then the next day we pulled him off of life support, which I felt like was a triumphant experience, because that's where he needed to go. I know he died of COVID because of the different blood clots that they found in his aorta. That happened 4.5 years ago, and I can't say that I will ever be the same after that, but I do feel a spiritual pull to understand what's it all about. Basically, that we need to know what it's all about. Please go to the next video that shows up here, and please subscribe to my channel. Love to you all.